Hello and welcome to another episode of the Creature Cast. I am your host today, Steve Vegvari, and alongside me, as always, my good pal Bobby. How the heck are you today?
Back-to-back episodes. I'm pretty excited about that. So I'm
Yeah,
good. I know you're kind of excited. So how are you doing? I know I'm just getting ahead of ourselves, but
you're
I'm getting
getting
amped
straight
up.
to it, but yeah, no, I'm excited. I mean, yeah, we put out an episode already this week, doing a bit of a retrospective
Mhm.
on the Nintendo Switch, in the lead-in to the Nintendo Switch 2. We invited our good pal Victor Lucas on. I encourage everyone to go check out that episode, take a walk down memory lane as we kind of catalog those early days of the Nintendo Switch, the highs, the lows, frustrations, and the impact that console has had on the industry since launching, geez, 8 years ago.
Yeah, it's insane, right?
Yeah, but otherwise, I'm doing good. I mean, it's summer. It's the end of May. We're getting right into Summer Game Fest in a little bit. Nintendo Switch 2 is right around the corner. Great games are being announced. They're releasing. I mean, I got no problems right now.
Well, life is good
Yeah,
for the most part. So lots of games. I want to just plug something I previewed today, which is going up next week.
do
I'm
it.
pretty stoked. Like, there's some really cool games coming out within the next 12 months that are going to satiate every kind of player, whether you like mystery games, skating games, horror. I want to say the genre horror esque games that like really scratch that '90s vibe of horror movies. Like, it's
Yeah,
cool. Everything's coming up game this year.
hell yeah, love it. And I mean, we're here for one reason, and that's to talk about a
Yeah.
very specific game, a game that I flew out to Montreal to go test. That is Hell Is Us, a it's kind of hard to describe, but I think the easiest way to put it is that it's a third person action exploration puzzle game, developed by
Rogue
Jesus,
Factory.
Rogue Factory. Yeah, I kept saying like Red. You know what it
I
is,
know it's
Bobby.
hard because I looked them up and I was like, I kept thinking of, I keep thinking of Rogue Nation because I've been watching the Mission Impossible movies, so that's what.
Oh, interesting. See, where I was going was I was just last night I ordered the Nightmare on Elm Street shirt from Retro
Yeah.
Kid. So I've had retro on the mind. No, it's Rogue Factory or
Ooh,
Rogue Factor.
Rogue
Jesus.
Factor. Oh God,
There's so many variables here.
yeah.
Rogue Factor from Montreal. They
Interesting.
I know, right? But yeah, I went out weeks ago at this point. I mean, it's been a long embargo. I've gotten to stew and sit on all my thoughts and feelings
Mhm.
about Hell Is Us. But I got to play 4 hours of it, talk to the developers, the head of the studio, as well as the creative director of Hell Is Us as well. So there's going to be a lot going on over on consolecreatures.com, including some interviews and then as well as my written hands-on report of my time spent with it. But I want to kick things off and just kind of ask you, how much have you been keeping up with Hell Is Us? How much have you, because they've had a couple spots on the state of plays with PlayStation. So a few chances for it to get on to people's radars, but I don't really hear a lot of like scuttlebutt online for
Yeah,
this game.
and that's kind of I feel like a factor that I'm kind of hoping Sony will maybe help bolster. Just be like, hey, this is in our state of play. Hell Is Us is a new AA game coming from this Canadian company, and
Yep.
we want people to play it. And I've kept up with it. I mean, it's got a lot of things I already like about it. Like, one, like, it's in Montreal. It's being developed in Montreal. It's made of people who worked at I think it's Crystal Dynamics or Eidos.
Eidos Montreal.
Eidos Montreal, and like
Yep.
they worked on Deus Ex: Human Revolution, and I think it was Guardians of the Galaxy. So like they
That's right.
worked on games that I actually love. So there's that component, and then you have Elias Tufexis as the main character, and he's awesome at
Yes.
everything he does. So like having him as a main character, not being Adam Jensen, is kind of hurts, but like it's cool to see him back in that saddle where he's leading a game. So yeah, like there's a lot of components to it, and it looks incredible. It feels like it looks and feels like a Soulslike, but it's everything I've been reading about it and what your previews have said. It doesn't seem like it is. It's like this really it's like a mishmash of like a bunch of components of like Sekiro and like all the stuff you're mentioning, and it's got my attention. Like I'm really excited for September, like, and it's so close that it's just like like I'm waiting to play. Like I'm really hoping we even get a demo even before that.
That would be cool, and I think it's a game that
Could probably use one.
could probably use one. Only I say this because it's a very unique game, and you say it right off the gate is that it reminds you of a Souls-like in so many ways. But it's funny that in an industry right now where so many developers are trying to go for their own Souls-like or trying to incorporate Souls-like elements and mechanics, every person I talk to at Rogue Factor, they're like, no, we're not a Souls-like. We are trying to push that narrative away. Although, as I'm playing the game, I was like, no, you guys are creating a Souls-like in a few ways. It does have that brutal combat to it. It's not that you're dealing with light and heavy attacks, but you are meticulously trying to they have their enemies, the hollow walkers, but you're using melee weapons like a sword, they call them limbic weapons, but limbic sword, a limbic axe. You got dual wielding some weapons as well, along like pole vault and stuff like that. And you're learning enemy patterns, you're deflecting, and unlike a Souls-like in some respect, instead of your stamina and health being individual, you're regaining your stamina by not attacking or not running around and deflecting and stuff like that. In Hell Is Us, everything is tied together, so your health and your stamina are tied together very intrinsically. So the more damage you're taking from enemies, the less stamina you're going to end up having, which means that the less amount of damage output you're going to end up having. So it's this tricky balancing act where you want to go and you want to get aggressive, but in being aggressive and taking too much damage, then you're not even like, there were moments I was trying to survive and I had no stamina, so I could only do like one hit, and then I would have to wait one hit, and then you're just like doing this chip damage, and it becomes like a frustrating process where you're just feeling like you're not progressing. But it's about learning the game's rules, because if you go in and you're like, I'm going to play this like Sekiro or I'm going to play this like Elden Ring, the game's going to be like, no, you're not. Like straight up, you're just definitely not. It's not supposed to play like a Souls-like. It's its own genre, I guess. It takes a lot of inspiration from these games. There is its own little bonfire system.
Right.
But the nice thing is that if it right out of the gate, because I wanted to talk about combat so close, at the top of the episode, is because I know a lot of people are going to hear me and say, well, I'm out. I don't want to play this. Elden Ring has never spoken to me. I don't really want another Souls. Like Hell Is Us does have a lot of customizable difficulty options, so you can really go in and tweak how much damage you're receiving or how much damage you're outputting, and kind of tailor the experience to do you want more of like a easier approach, or do you want to crank it up to difficult? And I played it on difficult, and it is brutal. It like there's a difficulty curve there that just goes from like, okay, this is kind of manageable, I'm taking my time, I'm trying to be very methodical in the combat, and then all of a sudden it just goes and you're like, I can't win. And then I scaled it all the way down just to kind of see what the influx or the reverse of that would be, and it's way more manageable, way more free. Like you have a lot more freedom in taking damage and feeling powerful when you're leveling weapons up. So the combat's very unique, and I totally understand why people would look at this and say, wow, that's a Souls-like. But I think that it does enough differently, and it takes a unique approach to combat, and it's enemy in the way that enemies attack and react to your attacks, that it's not necessarily a Souls-like in that regard.
I don't feel like it needs to be. Like I know that's always going to be the first comparison, but like you can, and look at games like Balatro. Everyone thought it was a poker game, but it was really a roguelike. Like it can pull elements from one genre and use it to do something new. And like that's what I feel Hell Is Us is trying to do. And judging by your preview and a couple I've read online, like it really is nailing what it's attempting to do, despite all like this ire that it's not. So yeah, like I mean that alone is I feel the main component of what video games are intended to be, right? Like it's iterating on something, but it's making its own, and that's what Hell is Us feels like. It's got that structure of a Souls like, but it's really not. And like that's honestly the best way to have people who don't want to play these games approach it, and rightfully so. Or like I know people who hate Elden Ring, they hate Dark Souls, even more recently Lies of P, but and that was because of the difficulty. But
Yep.
having that switch up in like and more example is Lies of P. Now it's having difficulty levels being added to it. This is something that I feel a lot of people are going to look at and be like, well, okay, I'll give it another chance, or I'm going to check this game out. And yeah, I mean, from everything that Hell is Us has shown, I feel like it's a good starting point. But I know I feel like with this last hurdle of the last 3 months, or whatever it is, to launch, they really need to ramp up their messaging and be like, this is really what this game is. It's not this; it's really just this with this and this mechanic combined. But like we're not trying to push it as this.
I agree, and then you brought up a great point, which is Lies of P, and I think that there is this shift now where Souls likes or games of this can and I'll even throw in Hell is Us, is that we're no longer facing this wall of, well, difficult games have to be difficult, and there's no, that's the end of the statement, that's the end of the conversation. I think that now we're getting to a point where developers are finding interesting ways to scale difficulty, to provide difficulty options. I love the fact that Hell is Us had that difficulty option where even me, I was like, no, this is too much for me. I don't want to play a game that is this brutal in its enemy output. Like it was daunting.
And rightfully so. Like I know several people who tapped out at the end because the last last like 2 or 3 hours, like it was impossible. That last boss, I know a couple of relatives who just tapped out. They're like, I'm not playing this game. I'm done. Like it's just not worth it to me. It was just so frustrating. And like, you know what? There's a market for that, but like not everyone needs to experience that frustration because not everyone has the same, reflex or response times.
Yep.
And like I've learned just over the years, how to play these games, and like that's just, it's a patience thing. A lot of people don't have the patience to play them, and like I rightfully so. Like your time is very important to you. Why do you want to play the same stretch over and over just to fail every time? Like I know it's about overcoming the hurdles, but like at the same
time is valuable.
Every hurdle needs to be impossible. And
time is so valuable. There's only so many hours I can spend trying to beat Mikola in Elden Ring before I'm just like, you know what, how's off to you, you won. But the nice thing is that on top of Hell is Us having that melee focused combat, you can upgrade your weapon simply just by using that weapon more often. So say you wanted to use the limbic sword, you use it more and more, and that limbic sword is then going to level up, doing more damage and stuff like that. So it really does kind of reward you of saying, I want to use this weapon as my primary, this is my secondary, so you can just automatically like switch over. I use the limbic axes, which was really cool. It's much more faster. You have like a much more faster response time to doing attacks and stuff like that. You use a little less stamina, but you get a little less damage out of it. But the more you use these weapons, the more you're able to level them up, which I thought was really cool. You also have a drone that follows you around that you can kind of like summon, that comes off of your backpack and stuff like that. It has this, like right out of the gate when you start playing, it has this very interesting attack or passive attack where you can send it and it will like stun one of the enemies. So if you're in a room with two of these hollow walkers, you can tell it to go, okay, go to the one on the left, stun it. I'm going to go, rush the enemy on the right, take it down. And then by that time I can concentrate on the left. So you're not kind of balancing and juggling two different enemies. So I think that's really cool. You do end up getting different relics and buffs that you can add on to the drone and to yourself to kind of give yourself passive improvements over the stretch of the game. But I wasn't able to play around too much with these buffs throughout the game, just because of the way the demo was structured. But it's cool that there are options and there are more. It's more than just, hey, you have a pointy thing that you can use to attack enemies. There's more thoughtfulness put into the combat.
is there a lot of variety in the weapons? Because like I'm just going off of what I've seen. I see a couple swords. So there's an axe. Is it just like you have a set like weapon set, or like some games, like there's only two or three weapons and you just
Sure.
upgrade them, or is it just like you find weapons like in Elden Ring, or
You're finding weapons throughout. So the way that the demo was structured is that there were like 3 segments, 2 of which kind of flowed into one another. I got to play the full introduction and then go into the first semi-open world hub. And throughout there, those 2, I found the limbic sword, which is like an automatic pickup through the story. I found the axes, and that was about it. Like I was searching around, I couldn't really find all that much up until the very end of that the demo in the open world section or semi-open world section where I found like the pole vault or whatever, which was like a longer weapon. And then it skipped me right into the dungeon, which I guess was like hours and hours later. And I had a totally different loadout and weapon set. I had like a named weapon, which was like a different kind of sword that had, status effect, I believe. And then a heavier axe. So I don't know how many weapons there are going to be in the game, but I feel like you're going to see a great mix of, traditional melee weapons.
I mean, that's really I'm more curious. I do like finding, Elden Ring's mechanic where you fight a boss, you get this really cool sword. Like I prefer that over just having like there are other games where you find like 3 or 4 weapons and it's just you're stuck with them. And it's just you're updating them, and like you're that's fine. But like I always prefer like the different look, the aesthetic. I always preferred that.
Sure.
Do they handle differently? Like so, if you have like 2, I saw like there was a great sword, and I saw like a short sword. Like is that like
everything handles differently? So your traditional limbic sword is probably like the middle of the road. You get the equal bits of damage output versus the stamina that it uses and the amount of time it takes to swing it, versus like the dual axes, much more faster, uses less stamina per swing, but you're also doing less damage. Right. And then you move over to like, let's say the great sword, high damage output, but it uses a ton of stamina and it's slower. So from what I've experienced, every single weapon kind of handles differently, but then also has the pros and cons to using them.
I played AI Limit, and that's like another Soulslike, and their main mechanic I would assume is, or I won't assume, it's what I call it. Everything's tied into the sync rate. So your health, your stamina, and magic are all tied into one bar. Like I do like that approach. It makes you think how you're going to take things.
Yeah.
Put on right. But the other thing I'm kind of curious about is the player pattern system, because like you mentioned it in your preview, and like it seems like it's a different way that is streamlining, the whole exploration aspect of it. And like I'm kind of curious about that, like how it's different.
Yeah. So Rogue Factor offers this system, or this terminology that they're using very, very adamantly, and it's called the player platter. It's handing players a silver platter of how to approach this game in terms of its exploration, its puzzle solving, and its mission line structure. And that this game is completely it takes a hands-off approach. So it could seem very daunting what I'm about to say, and some people are just going to nope the hell out, and I totally understand it. But there are no in-game systems to catalog your quest log. There's no compass. There's no baked-in in-game map. There's no if you go up to a character and you're like, hey man, so for instance, let's back up. The game you're playing as Remi. He is a refugee who escaped his homeland to go to Canada. He became like a revered soldier, and now he's going back home to find his parents when he's grown up. So it's this war-torn nation of Hadea, and you get in, and it's in the middle of a civil war, and the first objective that I was given was you have to find this village and track down your father.
Okay.
So in doing so, there's no compass, there's no waypoint on the map, nothing. And I was just kind of left to my devices. At the very start of the game, you start walking as Remi, and all of a sudden you get to this area where soldiers were fighting, and one soldier's hurt, and he's sitting outside of like a cavern. or like a tunnel system. And he's like, we can get out of here. Like, I will help you, but you need to grab the keys from my captain to get into this truck and we'll drive away together. And, you know, as Remi and the player, you're like, cool, I don't know how to get into this, this cavern because the door's closed. I have to now go up top, solve a puzzle, solve this like symbol puzzle, and, you know, attempt to get into this tunnel system. The issue is that, yeah, so as you're talking to the NPC, he's giving you contextual clues. He's saying, you know, like, my, you know, captain's in the cavern, blah blah blah. Other than that, there's no quest line that updates and tells you, okay, well, now you have to go up. So from there, it was up to me to figure out, okay, well, now I got to go exploring. I got to go find the different symbols, put it all together. And really, the game kind of wants you to take this old school approach where, yes, that puzzle in particular was pretty easy. I figured it out with no problem. But there are puzzles in this game where it's like, no, you need a pen and paper because the game is not going to tell you where to go. You're going to end up interacting with a character that's going to be like, hey, man, you have to go southwest from here and find X, Y, or Z. Another example is I ended up in a village and it was you know, all these refugees were there. They're, you know, trying to it was a safe haven from the war. And underneath, like in this little tunnel system, I came across a mother and her baby. And the mother was like, well, you know, I'm trying to keep my baby safe and keep it quiet and everything, but we've run out of breast milk. Can you take this baby bottle and find milk for me? I was like, sure. And she's like, all right, get going. Like, yeah, I'm not going to tell you where to go get milk. I was like, oh shit, I've got to go find it. And I never found out where to get the fucking milk. Like,
that baby died.
That baby is probably dead at this point. Yeah. And there's a litany of different puzzles and different, you know, quest lines and stuff like that, that really do take this hands-off approach where you'll talk to a character and he'll be like, man, I would really love it if you could do this. Go find, you know, at one point I had to find a priest, and this little girl that I found, she was like, I'm really worried about the priest. You know, my uncle, haven't seen him. He got taken away by soldiers and everything. And I just happened, like hours later, I happened to stumble across him just by happenstance and spoke to him and everything. And then I had to go re-find where the little girl was. And it was, luckily it was in my mind, but ideally you would write that down and be like, okay, she's on the house, blah, 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 in this village, X, Y, or Z. And so it really does bring back, you know, nuances of Blueprints, you know, a game that, you know, we've talked about on the show before of, you know, you're taking this pen and paper approach of writing down how your puzzle solutions and step-by-step things of how to remember where a door is if you find a key for it hours down the road across the map, and you have to come back and be like, well, shit, I remember it was over here, maybe northwest or something. Maybe it was by the cliffside or something like that. So I know that's going to turn off a lot of people, but I do think that it's a very compelling system of not telling you exactly where to go. Like we've all played Assassin's Creed where it is just follow the waypoint, get to the thing, play a cutscene, and then you walk right back. Like Hell Is Us is really putting a lot of trust in this player base to be like, no, figure it out, man.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think it's a bad system. I mean, Tunic did the same thing, and that was one of my favorite games that year. Obviously, Blueprints. There are, you know, dozens of scribbles I have in a notebook that I just like I needed to do, and like I get how it isn't an appealing mechanic because obviously you're having to stop what you're doing. You have to, you know, write something. You have to say, I have, you know, this character says go this way. And look, I get it. It takes you out of the experience. But that's kind of how things always were. Like before smartphones, like you had to pull out a map. You had to like find where you are. You had to trace a path to where you need to go. And like I feel like it's a lost skill a lot of people don't have anymore. And like it ties into the patience, right? Like if you ask anybody under 40, let's say 40, to use a map to get somewhere, how many people could probably do it?
Honestly,
not many. I'd say like no. I'll be fair. I'll be liberal. Half maybe.
Sure.
So and other people would just, you know, probably just crawl into a hole and die because they just don't want to go anywhere.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
It's fine. I mean, I do like it. I mean, I hope maybe people embrace it because it's something
I hope
different.
so.
You don't see it, and like rightfully so. Like even the last Assassin's Creed, um, I did end up using the new guide, not even the guide. It was like the exploration mode where it doesn't really handhold you anymore. Like I do like the fact that you kind of have to go. You have to use scouts and stuff like that. Like,
Hmm.
having a compass just above your head saying "go here" is just so boring.
I
Like
know.
I don't get why people just want to streamline that experience. Like the whole point. What's the point of having an open world if you're not going to actually explore it?
Sure.
You're just
Yeah.
going from point A to point B. Like it feels like a waste of all that craft that people are putting into these worlds. So like, I'm looking forward to having to sit down again, pull out a book or like even an iPad and just scribble like, hey,
Yeah.
this character, like you said, needs breast milk. You have to go get it from this thing. So okay, so this character needs milk. I have to go here. How do I get there? Oh,
Yeah.
that's wicked. I'm sure that it's gonna be intuitive. Like I feel like they had to. Like I mean, everything up to this point that you've said seems like they've really done their research. So like to just have that system and not make it their own.
No, it is very intuitive, and
Yeah,
to complemented, they do have some sort of in-game system which they call like the datum,
yeah,
and it's kind of catalogs all your investigation. So if you come across a character, that will be cataloged, so it will give you information of where the character was, who the character is,
yeah,
a little bit of background information, their appearance and stuff like that. That way, if you end up walking away from Hell is Us for a week or two and kind of forget, oh, what was the objective I was doing, where was I, and everything, you can kind of come back to it and be like, oh, okay, I'm caught up now. Because how many games have we played, you walk away from,
yeah.
come
And
back
I don't know
months
what's
after,
going
and you're
on.
like, I don't know what the hell I'm doing, I might as well just restart. And given that this game does take a very hands-off approach, it's very nice that it gives you a very upfront way of being like, no, here's who you're talking to, this is what's kind of going on, here's some lore of the world to get you caught up and make you feel like you actually know what you're doing,
Right.
while still taking a very hands-off approach.
That's all I feel like we need these days. Is just a nudge in the right direction. Like that's what you're telling me it's doing, and like really great. Um, the other thing I was gonna say, I know you were
Yeah.
talking about like the puzzle solving and stuff, but like what stood out in that regard? Like, is it like what kind of puzzles were you doing? Like the what kind of
Yeah, I mean,
you're not like maybe or like what like I know I'm just so because I edited your preview, like I went over it, and like it really called to me, like I love what they're doing with it, but like how does it tie into like the thing to the overall like premise of the game? Like why are there puzzles in this game? Is it like stuff like Zelda puzzles? Like oh what
it's a lot of like Zelda puzzles, a lot of, I would even bring in, Resident Evil to some degree. A lot of it is exploration. So you're just naturally going through, you might find a locked door to a tunnel
right?
system, or I'm not going to call them these necessarily dungeons, but just another like underground area to explore and stuff like
Right.
that. There isn't really, as far as I know so far, a lore reason why these puzzles exist. They just kind of do. And
Right.
they could be anything from having to find a certain amount of keys in the world, to setting different symbols in a correct way, to or just solving mysteries, like I was saying with the baby bottle and stuff like that. So there's two different aspects to exploration.
Yeah.
Is completing these mysteries, these kind of like side quests and stuff like that that don't really tell you exactly where to go. But then there are also environmental puzzles and stuff like that that when you unlock could bring you to a small little level for you to explore, or behind the door you'll find different buffs and different items that will help you along the way. The Where I think that the puzzles really get interesting is the third aspect of the demo that I played, which was the Limbic Forge, which is this massive scale
Right.
dungeon area, really harken back to temples from The Legend of Zelda. And I mean like the traditional temples of going in,
Yeah.
defeating enemies, unlocking doors, finding treasure, and completing puzzles in their own right. And this is when I was like, oh, hell yeah, this game fucking rips. This is when I was like so invested in this thing, because it's not, you know, a 15-minute little adventure. This was, I spent probably an hour, and I just got to the very end by the time I had to stop playing. So there was a good hour of just exploring this one dungeon in the game, where you go in and it's a waterlogged dungeon. So at the very top, you're going through some doors. You got to unlock and find keys to unlock different doors, and find cogs to then interact with this main like machine to then drain the water to get to like the second floor, and then you have to do it again to get to the third floor, and everything. And of course there's enemies in there, there's secrets. Like at one point I had to figure out how to get behind the fireplace, and getting behind the fireplace I found different buffs for myself and everything like that. So there's a ton of like optional treasure hunting that you can do, but it really did remind me of like, oh hell yeah, I'm going through the water temple, albeit you're not swimming, but you're really spending a lot of time trying to solve different little puzzles and stuff like that. But it's all up to you. The game doesn't tell you what you're doing, why you're doing it. It's just up to you to really do the investigating, and put yourself in the role of Remi to solve these mysteries.
Right. And that's kind of what I'm looking forward to. Is like they're so reminiscent of Ocarina of Time. Like, I don't think there's anything even remotely close that's come to it since. Like, I can't even name one game. But you're saying that spirit of like the dungeons is there, like that takes me from like a 7 to a 9 and excitement. Yeah, that's all I've wanted for years. And like tying it back into the Switch retrospective we discussed like the new Breath of the Wild formula and like what it did. Like it will never be what I wanted from a new Zelda game. Like I've always wanted that traditional go here, beat this dungeon, get new tunic and move on, or new power. Like that's what I feel like what you've said is just like it's really channeling Zelda, and like that's amazing. And even more so, you're saying it ties into Resident Evil 2 and the way that you're exploring the Raccoon City. Like, that's cool. Those are very iconic games, and these developers at Rogue Factor really know, they've done their homework. Like they know what people want to play, and like they're using all this knowledge they have on Guardians of the Galaxy, Deus Ex, and they're really channeling into Hell Is Us. And like that's the best compliment I can give them, is they like I said, they just know what people want to play, and like they're really making a game they want to play and what everyone else wants to play. So like kudos to them for doing this.
Yeah, I mean, overall, 4 hours playing Hell Is Us, I walked away very surprised. The only thing I find is that with a game like this, I feel like it demos nicely in that it gives you enough opportunities to get your hands involved in the combat, the exploration, the world building, see, the great art direction of the enemies and the enemy types and everything like that. I always struggle with these kinds of games when demoing them, when I don't have ownership over, the progression. For instance, I'll go back to the mother with the baby bottle. Right. I gave it some thought. I was like, okay, if I happen to find the solution to this, if I happen to find where to get milk, sure. But in 4 hours, I'm not going out of my way to find it. I want to kind of like mainline this a little more. So with that respect, there were some puzzles, finding the solution to get behind a door and stuff like that. I just didn't really find myself to have time, nor did I have the care to. And I wonder if that's also going to be a lot of people when they play the game proper, is that just because the solution isn't in front of their face, they're going to be like, well, I don't really care. I'm just going to do the mainline mission. I'm just going to get to the next major objective in the game. And I'm not going to really worry about all this like supplemental stuff, the mysteries and the puzzles. So I'm very curious to see what people end up gravitating towards in this game, because it does seem like it's going to be a bigger experience. I have no inclination as to, the overall scope or the length of this game.
Right.
But I'm very interested to see what people will end up thinking about this, not only when previews come out and people kind of get a better idea as to what this game is, but also when the game comes out later in September.
Did they give you any inclination of how long this game actually is, or like is it just
nothing?
Nothing, right?
No.
I mean, even if it's like a 20-hour game, I would love that. Like,
no,
that would probably be the optimal length for a game like this. Like, I don't think anything more than that would really do it justice, and it would probably actually hurt it. So, yeah, I mean, overall, like everything you're telling me, like this is something I'm really looking forward to, and yeah, we're months away. Like honestly, there's so many games coming out between now and September that I'm already pumped for that. But like, just start the fall with Hell Is Us. Like I'm so looking forward to it because what else is coming out that's kind of reminiscent of it? Like I can't even tell you. There's nothing that's kind of scratching that itch for me. Like we just got Elden Ring Night Rain, but that's
sure
what I'm looking forward to. Like I'll play it, but like
it's a very different game.
It's a very different game, right? There's nothing kind of like that you know, like you said, Zelda / whatever you want to call it, like Zelda / Resident Evil / all that. Like that stuff I want to play, and like this is kind of all that into one. So
yeah.
Wicked. Is there anything else you want to touch on? I know like you have like 4 hours. That's not enough. Like, I feel like that's not enough to get a scope of what this game is, and like it probably just whet your appetite. So like, is there anything you want to do before we close up for the shop?
I don't think so. I think, yeah, I mean, 4 hours, I think I got a good enough sense of what the game is, all of its intricacies, but I am very much looking forward to just playing the full game at this point. I don't think I needed any more time in the demo, especially by the time I got towards the end of the last portion in the Forge. I was like, okay, I kind of understand now everything that they're willing to show me from the game. I don't know if there's any more surprises, don't know if there's any more different environments and stuff like that, but from what I've seen, from what I played, I think this is a game that a lot of people should at least stay interested in.
Yeah
rightfully.
Hell Is Us is September 4th launch date, so PlayStation 5, Xbox Series, and PC is the lead platforms on this one.
That's right. Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, that's about it. We have a lot more content over on Console Creatures. So, we have 2 interviews, 2 separate interviews, a whole written hands-on feature as well.
Mm-hmm.
Bobby, if people wanted to connect with you online, where could they do?
Yeah, you can check us out on consolecreatures.com, Bluesky, Instagram, Spotify, YouTube. Pick your lane, and we'll be there.
Perfect. And then as for me, you can find me across the internet at Asvikvari. We appreciate you all for tuning in and sitting in on this little preview, and hopefully it gets you a little excited for Hell Is Us. But until next time, see you on the next episode. Bye.